Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Practical Show Tech. Looks like we got Pete joining us. Max should be here in just a second. We're excited to be together again here. We've had a little time between episodes. Funny what happens with work and everything else, but it's really another exciting topic. RF coordination is always a hot one. Soundbase. This will be third time with our friends from Soundbase. There's Matt and Donny joining us. I think I just need to point out probably you guys win. Everybody, every single episode has asked whether it was around comms, RF, you name it. When do offline editors show up? Well, you guys win. You have brought us an offline editor and or the equivalent thereof. But before we jump into that, hey Mac, why don't you share with us, get us back in the groove of our Q&A interaction and all that other exciting stuff.
Sure. This is a very user-driven forum, Practical Show Tech, and Donny and Matt are very user-driven developers. They are responding every day to questions and suggestions from possible users. So we encourage you to ask questions. The whole development of Soundbase is driven by the users, and it's by asking those questions that they're aware of what features should be added and what you really want it to be. So in the window, there should be at the bottom a Q&A tab. You can ask your questions in that. I believe that you will not see other users' questions. Only the panelists will see the questions, but all five of us will see the questions. And Pete and Kelly and I will be tracking them. And if we need to interject them contemporaneously, we will. There will be 5 sections sort of going through the webinar, and we will probably stop to go to some questions on each section as we go through it. But it's important that you ask the questions, because that's what this is all about, is asking the questions and letting Matt and Donny know what it is that you as potential users want. And that's really what it's all about, learning what it is, learning how to use it, and letting you have some input into how it's going to work. And I think that's really what we're doing here.
Absolutely, Mac. And I think we've got to point something out. Soundbase, I was going through my brain trying to think of all the applications that are out there that aren't directly provided by a manufacturer that have worked to bring such a level of performance, feature sets, and constant development and improvement. I couldn't come up with any, frankly. Maybe DAWs would be the closest, right? Where maybe you have a Pro Tools or you have something like that. So I think, first of all, we need to recognize and say thank you to you guys for taking that step for us as an industry, because I mean, just the work that you've put into getting to this point. And I'd like to point out the at no cost to the user. Right. I mean, there's very few times where you get to be literally a part of the development process as a user the way you do. So thank you for that. Thanks for being so open to both positive and negative criticism. It's got to be hard as software developers to, I mean, this is your passion. This is what you love. So thank you for doing that. I'd also like to say to the manufacturers who are participating with these guys, keep that up. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's important to us as the hardware users. I know, Pete, when we're putting systems in, what equipment gets specified, what equipment gets used. as we go forward, that interaction is really important. And I think as we're going to see today, the feature sets are pretty exciting. Like I said, I have not seen third parties have the level of involvement in our industry that I think your product has found. And with that, Pete, I'm going to turn it over to you. We know that you are a resident RF passionate coordinator, controller, manager. I will say this: the coordinator role probably evolving, right? Maybe RF manager may be one of those terms we're going to see more and more thrown around. But I'm going to throw it over to you to kind of take Donny and Matt on this journey with us.
Well, I've been using Soundbase for a while now and done dozens of shows with it, literally, some just by myself and some with collaborators using the same software. And it really is a dream come true. I think that the having the offline version is a terrific feature now, because I've done one or two shows where I was a little worried whether or not I'd have internet where I was going to be. And I was able to deal with it by planning ahead. But now this offline version is very interesting, and it comes in a lot of different versions. And I think right at the top of the show, we ought to have Donny and Matt address the subscription model, just so a lot of those questions are answered. For instance, if you don't want to use the internet version, and you only want to use your locally installed version, and your subscriptions one runs out, is that file usable anymore? That's one question that just came through from Andrew Broughton. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and let's have a great show.
Sure. So we can address that question right off the bat. The locally installed version will require internet access occasionally to just confirm with the server that your license is still valid. If the server replies that the license is invalid, you'll get some notifications about, you get 3 days of grace period, and then there's a 30-day grace period. We're nice about it. We're not just going to shut down all access to your installed software and you can't do your job. We're just trying to circumvent some bad actors that might try to change their system clocks to get around license fees and that sort of thing. But if any of your projects are cloud-based first, and we'll demonstrate this, whether it's a local project or a cloud project, if they're cloud projects, you can still have access to those from Soundbase for free in the online application. So it's not like you lose the data in any way. The only data loss that you may incur is if you would, let your subscription lapse, uninstall the thing and delete it from your computer, and any local files that you created, local only files, which is a very specific use case that we'll demonstrate. That's the only time that you would not have access to your data.
And
you're muted.
When you're saying the subscription runs out, then you don't have access to the locally controlled files.
Yes, but there is a grace period for, I think it's 33 days or so, and it keeps warning you and bothering you about it.
And you can always locally save those local files so that you can then re-import them back into the web-based app.
So so even though your subscription is run out, you can save the files and then go to the online version and re-import them to the online version. You can't actually switch between them, but you can. You don't lose your data.
Yeah, there's no data loss. It's just you lose user rights.
Okay, fine.
So you won't be able to use the application offline. You'll just have to, but you wouldn't lose any of your project data.
Yep.
And do we want to talk about the subscription model at this point? I know it's such a hefty topic that we could go blue in the face talking about.
Well, let's leave it till later on in the end,
Okay.
and we can talk about those sort of details, because I think the technology is more what people are looking for now. Once we've got our offline version, now they're all happy. So now they want to see how it works. Let's see how that works.
Don, do you want to share?
Sure.
Yep.
So first of all, we just want to thank Kelly, Mac, and Pete for this opportunity. It's like Mac said, the value that the users and the community provide is what drives us to want to make it better, first of all, and also how we make it better. Sure, we might have some harebrained ideas that we think are cool, but once we display it to a wider audience, they'll either give us better ideas or tell us it's terrible, or any sort of thing like that. So it's fun for us to have the feedback, and the negative feedback is also important. So as you'll see today, we're just going to be demoing the Soundbase Pro product offering, which is this locally installable application of Soundbase, which is the online app. And if you're not familiar with that, you can go to soundbase.app. It's free to use. We don't restrict any features we're calling this the cloud version. Soundbase.app is the cloud version of Soundbase, and Soundbase Pro is the locally installable version. So, Soundbase.app is always free to use for forever. We're not restricting any features based on pro licensing or feature specific licenses or anything like that. It's just when you buy a license for Soundbase Pro, you get these added benefits, one of which is live spectrum monitoring right now, using the Tiny SA and Tiny SA Ultra. You can also remotely view your live spectrum within Soundbase Cloud. The other offering we have is SoundSync, which is the control and monitoring of specific wireless devices. We're starting off small with the devices that people use most often. We're working close with many manufacturers to try to make this very user-friendly and clean and really nice. I hope you guys like what you see. And then after we go over the Soundbase Pro, we'll talk about some notable new features that are in cloud. Maybe you haven't seen it since the last PST demo, and you'll see features in there that you guys have asked for directly on the PST webinars the last time. And finally, we'll talk about WiMAS. There's not much to talk about there from a Soundbase perspective, but we just want to address that we're ready and willing to make it work when the time comes. So what are we going first, Don? So first, you want to talk about this? Or you want me to?
You can go, man.
Sure. So as I said, it's locally installable. It's an Electron app, if the technical guys know, which means it's essentially running a web app on your computer, which means we can use the same code base as Soundbase.app. So, when we release code to Soundbase Cloud, you also get it in Soundbase Pro. There's no update sync issues there. The cloud sync feature of Soundbase Pro allows a project to automatically sync with Soundbase app. So any cloud projects that you start in Soundbase Cloud will show up in your Soundbase Pro instance when you have internet, and vice versa. As you make changes in either side, they'll sync to either end. And then, as I said, live spectrum monitoring, SoundSync, and SoundSync right now is in beta, where there are some bugs with it. So we're really working with a few key users to work all that out. That'll probably be releasing later in March or April or so. But what we'll show today is kind of the goal or the vision for where this type of thing will go. So that might end up being wireless intercom control, or any other device control that users require, maybe even Dante network control, things like that need one application to push all the changes. That's kind of our goal here. You have anything, Don?
I was going to switch to the app, and then I was hoping we can kind of talk about the difference between cloud and local, and what the main difference between what local means.
Yeah, so as it says there, you can do much more if you use a cloud project type. Pretty much, we developed very closely with some key users this local idea, where you still want to have a project on your computer, you still want to use Soundbase and all its features, except for anything that requires internet. You never want any of your data to touch a cloud server. You don't want it going to Google or AWS or Amazon or Dropbox or anything. So that's what a local project allows you to do. But when you do that, you also lose most of the benefits of Soundbase in general, like collaboration, real-time reports, Soundbase's updated profile lists, all that kind of thing. And cloud syncing, which is also a pretty big deal. So we say make a cloud project, pretty much never touch that button unless your client tells you that the data is very private and you never want it to be stored on the internet somewhere. It doesn't mean that that you won't have access to your file if you download the export, like Donny was saying, because that is not a cloud specific thing. Local files can be downloaded as well. But yeah, just make a cloud project first and only use local sparingly.
Yeah, local is really designed for those corporations or certain clientele that don't want you to use any form of cloud-based storage. Either they want you to use like their SharePoint or their Google Drive to put all show files in. So this is our way of kind of separating, cutting the tie from the servers. And it's very explicit too. So you can't convert one project type to another once you've created it. A local project will just never touch the internet ever. And a cloud project will always try to resync to the cloud, back up your data, or push out changes if you have real-time reports like we showed on our last practical show tech demos. You can make all of your changes offline on the plane. As soon as you land, open up your computer, touch the internet, it'll push out all of those changes to all those real-time links. So it's very explicit. If you ever want to take a local project and turn it into a cloud project, you just go to the site.
Donny,
Yes.
quick question. When it's good to point out that the connection to the cloud is always encrypted.
Yeah.
That if somebody else logged onto your cloud-based file somehow with their version of Soundbase, they would not be able to access it.
That's right.
Yeah.
In general, we use services that are encrypted end to end, including our database. The actual file storage of our database is encrypted, which is, very hard to crack. So that's like the kind of standard. We follow all standard practices with GDPR and all the normal data and compliance rules. Yeah, so like Donny's showing, we've HTTPS, that sort of thing. But yeah, the local version is our way of almost air gapping your project entirely. The only connection you'd have is if you would ever connect to the internet and it would phone home just to check your license every so often. That's the only thing.
How often does it do that?
I forget, honestly. I think it's like every day or so.
Yeah, it checks every day. So as long as you touch it, the way it works is as soon as your device loses internet, it starts a 30-day timer and it'll count down. Once you get to your last day of those 30 days, a message will pop up and say, hey, you need to just re-authenticate, just verify that your license is still valid. Let's say you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have no internet. When you get that pop-up message, you make a mistake, or the timing just happens to be worst case scenario. The computer's just sitting inside of a pack, and then you happen to open it up on the 30th day. You can click a button that says snooze this alarm for another 3 more days until you're able to find internet. And all you have to do is then just re-log in, and then it'll refresh for a whole nother 30 days.
But you don't have to have an online version of the file to do that, right? No. Even if you're using a local version, this applies to that. So even if you're only using local files with all the data stored on your local computer, once a month at minimum, you have to connect to the internet. And does it do it blindly, or how does it say, I'm going to check my my connection?
You'll see in the cloud projects, for cloud projects, we made it very explicit, like, hey, I'm syncing the project right now. But for the user setting, we don't. It just happens.
What about for the local setting?
There, Donny just showed it there, that it's not, that's saving to the cloud there. That's for data that's being saved to the cloud.
But how will you know that your computer is checking its local license?
I'll show you right here underneath the logout. You'll see, like, because I'm online right now, so it's saying 30 days until authentication is required. And it shows right under the log out button.
And if you actually will, what I'm trying to say is, how do you know that it's checking?
I guess you could use that as an indicator, that day, the countdown days.
Right.
If it's always 30, then you're all
And
good.
you also know
Oh,
here
okay.
too, it says server connectivity connected. So
And
it's
server connectivity is going to be there whether it's local or online.
Yeah, this is like a Soundbase Pro global thing for things like your name and email and your license ID.
Okay,
That's-
but you're
that's
not
what that-
sharing any of your file that you have coordinated.
That's correct.
Okay.
Where are we done?
I think we should also mention too, like how you get 2 devices, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
with a one license, you get a main and a backup, so you can install it on a Mac or a PC, or just have that extra license just in case. And if you do need additional licenses, just contact us and we'll help you out with that. It's not we don't have a license manager yet. It's a very rudimentary license management system that was meant for one user to a license ID, which gets 2 computers. We've had interviews with a bunch of sound shops to work on this, so that sound shops may be even able to lease a license out to a freelance user that they have on one of their jobs, so that the sound shop could own, a pool of licenses and use them as needed, kind of like Waves licenses are used in some shops.
Cool,
There's a
man.
question here for ETA on Windows version. That's out now. We released it with the .21 release. And it's yeah, we'll keep making improvements to it.
And the benefit of having 2 installable or 2 licenses, you have a main and a backup computer. Some people may split a license across 2 shows, or which it's fine, however they may wish to use it. And the locally installable app is for Mac OS, ARM, Intel, and Windows. Should I go to the next slide, Matt?
Yeah, it's enough business stuff. All right, so one of the features is Scan Recon Pro. Scan Recon Pro, you'll be familiar with Scan Recon, which is the scan database we have in Soundbase.app. The Pro version adds live spectrum monitoring with TinySA and TinySA Ultras for right now. We're going to be adding additional analyzers when we get time, including other devices. So you can imagine your wireless receiver could create live scan data, and you could view that in the plot. Or perhaps you have a wireless IEM receiver plugged in through USB, and you could walk around the stage and viewing what it's actually seeing. So those are a few of the upcoming ideas we have. The other option that comes along with Scan Recon Pro is the live scan data remote viewing. So you can view my tiny SA that I have plugged in here. Donny can view that inside Soundbase Cloud and hit from his house if I have it running. To all collaborators in the project. So you don't have to have a pro license to be able to remotely view someone. If someone in your project has a pro license, they can share out this data to the entire collaborator team. Another cool thing about this, because we're controlling the hardware, we're able to get more data points out of it than just the screen from the TinySA. So you'll see that we can control, the TinySA I think is limited to, Ultra is limited to like 490 points, I believe, forget. But since we can control the device, we can change the number of points, we can change RBW, we can change start, stop, center, span, all the normal things, which then comes into play when you want to like war game. You can imagine you've got like a really tight view of you've clicked on your frequency, you've focused your frequency, and it's moving the TinySA to like a 1 meg wide around that frequency in really high detail. So you can see, exactly what's going on as you're wargaming. Additionally, like I know Pete has asked that for a while, I think from our original.
Do you have a receiver and transmitter that you can demo that on, or?
Not yet.
Oh, I mean, okay, not on your system right there. Okay.
Yeah.
No, we're working with a couple manufacturers on that.
Where in the software can you click on a frequency and see the war game picture? Anywhere where there's a frequency, or
Yeah, we can show you that.
yeah, please.
When we go to the demo portion, I guess we can do that now, right? Donny, you want to start? So the controls for Scan Recon Pro are in the plot down there. You see you've got a live button, settings button, and a save button. He just connected, and now these are the settings we've decided to start with controlling. By default, it kind of comes up with RBW 0 of auto and like start stop of 0, but you can really tweak these. This setting at Donny's house looks pretty decent. So yeah, then you can just view it on the plot here. You can zoom in around the plot just like you're used to in Soundbase. There you go. You can focus a frequency. And now at this point, this is where we will be doing the wargaming. I haven't implemented it yet. We had it, but it was annoying to users. I had it automatically change the start and stop to 1 meg around that frequency, but some users didn't like that, so I removed that. So we'll have to add that back as an option. When you focus the frequency, it'll capture 1,000, 3,000 data points between that 1 megahertz span.
So that's only controllable by selecting the frequency in the window on the bottom.
The idea is that
what about focusing with the frequency right and the left-hand side?
Yeah, that works too.
Anywhere where it says focus.
Right. And another concept we had was in that frequency details window. The frequency details can open up, and we can show the snapshot of the plot right next to it. So you can see all your details, and
that would be great.
So the end goal is to have your live, your real world data right here with your spectrum analyzer. And then over here, you have your meters of the hardware that you're connected to. And then all you do is you just hit arrow over here and you can kind of war game and just jump.
Are you directly controlling Tiny SA are you selecting the number of points and everything more than it can actually do in itself?
On the screen, the Tiny SA application has these same controls, but if you're just viewing the screen itself, it can only capture a specific number of data points.
And the sweep time would be the same?
No, sweep time does go up with more data points.
Yeah.
Right. So you sort of see the sweep time here on the bottom. It's about 1 second or so between when the thing changes, right?
Yeah.
And
so
if I were to like raise it to like 5,000, it's probably going to take quite a bit.
Or if you change RBW to auto, or all those things can.
Yeah. Oh Lord, that's a lot of points for this guy.
But I think the point here is like the vision of what's possible with this product, because I know a lot of people love the Tiny SA, a lot of people don't. They have signal hounds, or they have key sites or TTIs. The signal hound was really a great entry point for us because it is so cheap. It gives pretty decent data, and the API was really easy to integrate. So it was a great proof of concept of where this can go. Another cool feature is the save button. So I know a lot of people have, importing Tiny SA into Soundbase for some users was kind of annoying. So here we just made it it takes a snapshot of what you just were scanning. You can see here, you can always change to not share your scan data with other users of Soundbase. So this is another data privacy thing that we've incorporated after discussions with other users. So as you're uploading a scan file, you can choose not to share it.
And this applies even if you're using the online version.
That's correct.
You cannot share your scan data as well.
That's correct. So now he's got his static scan file and the live scan file. The white is the static one and the red is live. Don, do you want to, I mean, that's kind of, oh yeah, so we've got, what do we got? Peak hold, max hold or something?
So like, I guess the point, we started with Tiny SA, but as we, implement other device types, I'll move this around a little so it's, we'll get way better results. It'll be way quicker. It's only going to go up from here, but we kind of wanted to implement this. It's cheap. It's easy for people to test. It's easy access. It's on Amazon Prime, same day delivery. So people can try, test it, and then as we're building it, they can help us refine it. So that way,
So eventually you'll add my Field Fox to it.
yeah. I mean, Pete, I personally have a Field Fox too, so I'm a little bit biased in adding that in right away.
It's a little bit harder of an API for me to get my head around, so that's why.
We really want to add Signal Hound in, because we think that's like a good like middle, like kind of like middle ground device for people to, price wise and quality wise. The problem is that their API requires Windows, so we're working with Signal Hound on trying to figure that out. It also isn't supported by ARM devices.
Yeah, so for Scan Recon Pro, that's the feature set for live scan data in the Pro version. So the other thing that we can do is demonstrate live scan data remotely, if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna show Matt just the
Monitor.
amplitude.
Good. Yep, go for it.
Do you want to talk about this, Matt?
Sure. Yeah, so we have these little vertical bars next to the frequencies. You'll see they're all green right now. These kind of indicate, quality of that frequency based on these threshold values that you can then edit. As Donny changes it, you can see that and updates it. You'll see that the frequencies will actually change. So this is another user requested feature because they're like, hey, I'm in a really noisy environment. I don't want all of my frequencies to be red all the time because I understand that my noise floor is really high. So this allows the user to customize exactly what they want to see in those indicators. And it's not just those vertical indicators next to the single frequency. You see it's changing with as the live data comes in, but it also is in the monitoring feature that we've added so you can actually see the level and the color at the same time in the frequency list. You can also see it in your candidates list. And this is, if you have live scan going, you'll see it. And if you don't have live scan going, then it'll reference your static file. So now you can pick frequencies from your candidates list based on amplitude of the live scan data.
Going back to the control of the Tiny SA, does the VBW change with data points, or do you set that?
No, it goes auto for right now.
Okay.
We can add it in as a manual change point.
VBW, not RBW.
Yeah, VBW.
And if you wanted to change the VBW, where would you change that?
You would have to do it on the device. Yeah, on the device itself.
Okay. Another person asked where he's had issues changing the points per scan, changes the noise floor when he exports it from Tiny SA into WWB. Is this something you see, or is he doing something wrong? Because I don't see the noise floor changing a lot on this as you change the points.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've seen that one.
I mean, the noise floor is pretty good. This is like 100. I mean, I guess it depends on a lot of different things.
Yeah, so many factors, and also LNA on your device or transmitters on, off, all that normal stuff. And RBW, that's.
But if you change the number of points to many, many more, is that going to be a higher noise floor here?
I haven't personally noticed that.
Okay.
There's also I know Tiny SA put out a recent update that did frequency amplitude export, but depending on how they're exporting the file from their Tiny SA, maybe there's a conversion issue And
And
somewhere, it could be multiple things.
when you do this scan here, you showed a second before about how you can export it. Export the scan CSV. I think you just,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right now we just have downloading of the CSV that is converted, and this would be Soundbase globally. We're not just talking about Pro here. Converted meaning, you know, if you have multiple bandwidths of TTI that you've used Soundbase to stitch into one file, when you click that download button, it's going to give you that one CSV file that includes all of those.
no other
There's
formats like PDF or anything like that, right?
correct. You'd have to open it in Excel or something and manipulate
Yep.
it.
Okay.
Cool.
So now I'm on the cloud version. I'm back on a web browser. And Matt had checked a box within his TinySI or configuration window to share the scan data live to all collaborators. So if
So
Matt
Matt's is technically the pro version.
So now I'm on the Pro version, and here's my TinySA going
Right,
along.
right.
I have terrible settings right now, but you can see how
But Donny's version is not pro version.
he's just in the cloud. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can see
Right.
up at the top that says soundbase.dev. That's our staging server,
Okay.
all the beta stuff. But so you can see how quick it is. I'm at my house. He's at his. It's going as fast as my screen is going. Now I just stopped it because I'm going to change some settings here.
So if one person on a show has the license to do this, collaborators can take advantage of all of the features as long as they're in the
Correct.
file, and they
Only
don't
one
have to have the
device.
subscription.
Correct.
That's right.
Only one device is required to communicate to the hardware, and then that can stem out to collaborators. So when we've been talking to like a couple sound shops, especially like the touring ones, they go, "Oh, we'll put a pro license on every show." And then if they're having a problem, or if it's like a monitor tech who's not really an RF person, it's like a smaller tour, you know, have a dedicated RF guy, they're having trouble. They have access to the real world environment with streaming data. They have access to the hardware. They can monitor the hardware. And then they also have access to the frequency coordination. And
So
they
the
could do
shop
all of
can
that.
log on and fix your problem.
Exactly. And that does not require the person back at the shop to have a pro license. Only the device that's plugged into all the hardware needs it. Now, it does require both devices to have internet, obviously, because it's collaboration. So if you're in an arena or on a festival, you're gonna have to find internet in some way. But
Hey,
But
Don.
the file,
You're-
it can be still a local file on Matt's computer.
That's correct.
Doesn't have to be a cloud-based file. You're accessing the local file on Matt's computer, so it's still a private thing.
Yes. Here's a demonstration of that focused frequency, Pete. This is our goal. When you click a focus frequency anywhere, you just use the same settings and just change the start and stop. You can see it, spectrum right behind that frequency. I've stopped the data, Don. Any questions about that?
we are going to we've had a couple people using this out in the field for a couple months now, and we've been getting a lot of feedback on wanting different colors for the different trace lines. So you can have multiple static files that you can then set deviations in between, and then you can have a live scan with a different color. Right now it's red, which also just happens to be the same color as the exclusion threshold, which a lot of people aren't happy about. So we're going to allow definable colors soon.
Where do you change that threshold?
It's you can do it in two places. You can do it here,
Right. Okay. Exclusion threshold. Okay.
or you can do it in your calculation settings window.
Okay.
Great. Any questions or?
Doesn't look like it.
No, that's it.
Cool. So SoundSync, here's what we were talking about earlier, where we're connecting, we'll demonstrate connecting to these three manufacturers, Sennheiser, Wisicom, and Shure, with, you know, obviously more coming. For right now, in the beta version, you can control your hardware by pushing your frequency and name. So no longer do you have to export a CSV, import it into Workbench, push it to your devices, and manage it through there. You can do that all through Soundbase. So that includes Wisicom as well. So, you know, I know it's been kind of a workflow problem on some tours where you're trying to get up really quickly, but you've got all these different softwares to manage. So by being able to combine all the manufacturers in one app makes it pretty slick. Additionally, we're working on hardware and telemetrics. We'll demonstrate a little bit of that today. Again, it's in beta, so like it's kind of buggy. But again, it's more like seeing the vision of where this goes. Because now, you know, some people thought when we came out with Soundbase Pro that it was just going to be, oh, it's an offline version of Soundbase. But there's so much more that you can put into it because it's now locally installed. So now we can connect to network devices, USB devices, all sorts of things. But yeah, so we're looking to beta release it in March, beta and general availability in April, depending on how much time and bugs we have.
It's
That's
important to,
SoundSync. You're talking about the release of SoundSync, right?
That's correct.
yes,
Right.
it's important to know too that we're still building this. So we do have a couple people that are giving us a lot of feedback on it, but if there's any viewer here that doesn't like the direction we're headed with either workflow or whatever it may be, like, please, you know, reach out to us because we want to do it right. And that's like that's what we pride ourselves most on is workflow. We're trying to make the workflow as seamless as possible.
My experience is when I've been using this program in the last 20 or 30 shows, once in a while I have a question. How do I do this? How do I do that? I don't quite remember how to get somewhere. And I've just clicked on the little question mark up in the right-hand corner, which is an email, and sent an email to Matt and Donny. And within a few minutes, because they're locked in their garage programming all the time. So they're right there and they respond very quickly.
Just reset your screen here, and there we go. So we've got SoundSync. You've got your devices tab inside. Yeah, there we go. You got your devices tab, and this is where you set things up, including selecting which net interface you want to use. Donny only has one. And then here's your refresh button up here. Now it's essentially discovering all the devices on Don's network. He fortunately has a rack in his basement that we both share over VNC to do this development with these devices in it. You want to take over, Don? I
Sure.
don't know what to do next.
So this is kind of your discovered devices, and then your added would be above. So if I were to add this 84Q, you can see it came in, and then we'll do one of each flavor, like the kind of like the top 3 devices from the top 3 manufacturers or most popular manufacturers right now. We'll add 6K, and then we'll add the new 982. This also works with 952. You can see right now that we've already have connectivity with EWDX, and MCR54, and then we also have MRK16 for doing different control things for the MCR54s. We also have PSM 1000s and a couple other devices that will all be part of the launch in April. So now that I've added these devices are added per zone, not per project or per site. So you can imagine that if you have a bunch of collaborators that are across multiple stages, as long as you're all sharing the same VLAN or group, you can all monitor and control different devices on one control net.
So the zone includes the network interface selector up in the upper right hand corner. So if you choose another zone, it may be another network device.
Correct. If you want to keep those separate, yes.
So these little check boxes here are to enable or disable monitoring of that specific channel. We know that's not the best UI, but it's working for us for right now. You know, it's this each channel. Now we have our devices and our device channels represented, but they're now not linked to the actual frequencies in your coordination. This is just kind of like saying, hey, this is what's on your network. If you wanted to, you can do things like renaming each device if you want to call it, you know, MTK 982 number one, that sort of thing. You can drag and drop devices around this list if you've got a massive list. By default, it sorts by IP unless you actually change it. So if you've got a nice rack set up where all of your devices are sequential, it makes it really quick to add them in.
And now that you've connected them, how do you suck or download what's in them into Soundbase?
Well, you can actually see them right now. It tells you BP01.
But once you connect them, it will suck it automatically. Okay.
It tells you what's on the thing. We don't want to have anything happen automatically. That could severely destroy your work. So what we're building in is settings. If you want to show that done, none of these settings are operational right now in this demo, because you can imagine pulling in your entire rack of gear can totally screw up your coordination. So we never want that to happen. We want everything to be explicit, just like Don, you're always talking about like the Recon controller, like how you can push and pull it discreetly and know what's happening when. So the idea here will, you know, we can enable or disable these settings to allow frequencies from devices in that situation. From a coordination standpoint, we would pull them in as uncoordinated. We would bring in the number that's on the device, but we're not going to trust that it's a safe frequency to use if we would enable that feature. We would allow pulling names, and then from the Soundbase side, allow pushing frequencies and names are the two settings that we're working with right now. And then it's also kind of neat if you were, say, prepping a show in the shop, and you're connected to the rack. We have these two settings. I actually had them enabled originally, and it was kind of scary because as I would make changes in my coordination to my names or my freaks, it was just pushing changes right to that rack, which is kind of cool if you're setting things up, but you never want to do that on a show site. So we have a setting there to enable or disable.
So I guess the point is that instead of just having like a window that locks up the UI, that'll be like either take what's in my rack settings or my software settings, we're kind of allowing the user to choose where those, where are you, what info are you pulling off of the receivers or transmitters in your devices, and what are you pushing from the software into it? And we can kind of demo that with the push-pull system a bit. So right now, like there's not an auto assign. We're working on that UI, and this is all part of like, if someone has a good idea on how to make this better, please email us, reach out to us. This is what
There's
we've
not what kind of sign? Right now,
There's no auto assign is what.
Auto assign, like how you can just hit like click one button and it just brings all of your frequencies over here and just automatically applies them.
Oh, right. Yeah. But
Right now it's a
how would you
manual
assign them
process
now?
of what frequency goes where. But we do want to add like that one quick button to speed up some people's workflows that don't necessarily care what frequencies go to which device. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Right now it's all drag and drop, but you can come and you can click and drag these four frequencies onto this 84Q. And now you can see that it's showing this orange box because it's currently out of sync. Well, it actually isn't, because the current frequencies are the same that are right here, but saying that we dropped. And then, or you can do it individually per channel.
Now, if that frequency was different than what they were, what would it show?
We can show that.
Yeah, we'll
So
show
I'm
that.
going to do just a global push to all devices. Now, if I were to recalculate something or change a name, it would show it as different. So if I were to come over here to WYSICOM, recalculate all frequencies in group. So now I just recalculated. It's showing that there's a difference. And if I hover over here, it'll say it's out of sync, two different frequencies. And then I can come over here and do it, push it per device or per channel, but I'll just do it per device this time. And just like that, I push new frequencies out to the device. And you'll know too here now that we're linked to a channel with the link icon over in your frequency coordination list. And the color corresponds to the group that the frequency is in.
Is there a way to, this is one zone here in the middle, but what if I wanted to see the Axion digital mics in 3 different zones at the same time?
So that would be in the actual monitoring page. We want the assignment and linking to be done on a zone level, but the
Okay,
actual
but the monitor
monitoring and
page
viewing
can
could be
have
done
different
at a
zones,
wider level.
right?
So right now, this is like, I'm talking into a 6K. Hey, Chuck. And then you can kind of see the WYSICOM MTK right here. We just have like a YouTube playlist playing through this channel. But this is kind of showing, hey, Chuck. If I were to want to go and add a shore in to my monitoring view, I'll just come over here, check the handheld. Now I have a shore, 1, 2, 3. Hey, Chuck. And we kind of wanted to resemble the like the meter style of each manufacturer. So when you look at it, you know. If I were to come in and try and add another 6K in, I can. And so you can kind of set it up however you wish. Hey.
This is another UI that we're frequently working on. We recently added drag and drop to each channel strip. We have a zoom in, zoom out, and reset. We're working on, I didn't get it for this demo, but a tabbed interface.
But this is where you could have equipment from different zones on one screen.
Correct.
We're saying the potential is there. There's just not a demo of that feature at this moment.
Yeah.
And from these devices, can I double click on the frequency and change the frequency directly?
Not yet.
Yeah.
But it's a great idea. So
we're
Or
trying
change the name directly?
We were trying to be very explicit because that's kind of how we do everything with coord, is like, this would be your monitoring page. So that's where we built it first to
Right.
just monitor. If you want to change anything, you're going to do that in your coordination anyway. You're going to want your frequency in your coordination list to match what's being monitored. So if you change it from the frequency coordination list side, and then it automatically pushes to your device, there's that's why we went that route first. But obviously, based on user feedback, we will definitely.
Yeah, for running a show, you may want to be able to relabel these on this screen, as well as change the frequencies. Or I guess you should go back to the coordination screen to change the frequencies, because you have to pick a new frequency.
Well, we could offer just like a recalculate button, and it just will pick the best frequency it can. Just
Yeah,
like
that would be great. Sure.
So there's definitely an option there. We also, within the frequency details window. Oh wait, I guess we hit it, Matt.
Yeah, I disabled that for the demo.
That's where so if I'm under like a shore, like Axion, I would be able to come in here. There's a tab here. That's where you'll be able to change your transmit power. You'll be able to change the sensitivity settings and all of that for devices that support that. And we're working with multiple manufacturers that have that ability with their devices.
So hopefully this will show kind of the direction we're going. And please let us know the interface of this assignment workflow, that sort of thing. We'd love to improve it more.
So like the ultimate goal is for you to basically plug so you create a new show file or project in Soundbase, you plug in, you set up your network settings, you pull in all of your devices on your rack, you hit add, you either take a scan or you go to scan Recon, where you can then search for a scan file. You add it in, you do a exclusion threshold, and then you just hit calculate. And as soon as you hit calculate, it pushes it all into your rack. And that's across multiple manufacturer types. So you can have a full frequency coordination up with scan data, TV data, all of your hardware, your full calculation, all within like a couple minutes.
Yeah, I have a couple of clients that do the same exact hardware in different cities all over the United States. And typically I'll go and I'll pick a new scan recon for them and pick a new location for it, do a recalc on it, and I take photos of the frequencies on the left and just text it to them. But this, I would be able to just take those coordinations and just upload it right into the racks.
Exactly. You could do it all remotely too. So if they're connected to everything, you can do everything remotely. Like this
So I'll
scan that we're looking
never
at.
have to leave home.
Yeah, this scan that we're looking at was done with the Tiny SA live, which is not like, I mean, I'm out west in Jersey, but it's not a great scan, but doesn't have like those super tall walls with high dynamic range, but gives you an idea of what's going on in the environment. It's, a decent noise floor. And you can plug in and be up and running real quick.
And like some of our Broadway users, the Broadway tours go so quickly. All the coordinations are happening back at the shop in Soundbase. So we don't have any live yet right now because that's kind of a little nerve wracking because we're still working on the bugs and stuff. But you can imagine as Eric, who's doing the coordinations at Sound Associates, does his recalculations for the week for all of his tours. Those sync down to Soundbase Pro at the next tour stop when they get internet. They connect to their network. They go to the next site because that's how he does it. Every new tour stop is a new site in the project that is duplicated. And they can just push the changes that are required. Here's an example of that.
So yeah, here's an example where I just opened up my touring project, right? I did not do this frequency calculation. This was done by Matt earlier today. We kind of set up this scenario and staged it for this demo. But you can see Matt changed the frequency from this to this. And now that I'm at my new tour stop, I just connected in. I pull in all of the changes Matt made, which could be the frequency coordinator from the shop or third party, whoever you hire. And all I got to do is hit push. And just like that, I pushed all my frequencies into my hardware, into my rack on site. And then let's say we go to the next city at the next tour stop. This is the new frequencies that for this tour stop, because different TV data or different environment. And all I have to do as the A2 or the monitor engineers hit push. And just like that, I just pushed all the new stuff to the hardware. So it's super fast. You kind of can do as an RF coordinator on tour, you can do all of your stops ahead of time. And then once you get on site and once you verify that everything matches up, you can just hit push with one button and all your racks are programmed. No more hand typing them in, opening up multiple different softwares.
The computer and Soundbase on site connected to the hardware has to be the Pro version.
Correct.
But the person back in the shop doing the coordination can just log onto that computer on the site and see the scan and make the changes directly.
Correct. We don't have it available to demo right now, but the same way that we were shipping that live scan data from Matt's house to me, I could ship all those meters from all the different RF hardware back to him.
Eventually that will be available, the monitor page you're talking about.
Correct. That will be able to be monitored remotely, and that would not require a pro account. The pro account is only for offline access and to connect to hardware. So if you're a sound shop, you only need a few licenses, and most of your users can be cloud, which is a free account. And each pro license gives you 2 licenses or 2 activations. So I think that's everything with hardware control, right, Matt?
Yeah, I think so.
So I guess this is kind of just showing off the vision and like kind of the direction we're heading. If people have any better ideas or good UI ideas or Or maybe even if there's certain hardware that I didn't mention that we're going to support off the gate that's really important to you, please reach out to us.
So Ike Zimble asked if he has a venue that he was managing remotely, they would need to have the pro license at their venue to run their hardware, but
Correct.
he wouldn't need the pro license to do that management of it.
Correct.
And the whole thing about the pro is the hardware has to be able to talk to the wireless mic hardware.
Yes, the locally installed app gives us the ability to talk to devices over network or serial USB.
Cool. There you go, Ike. Now you don't have to go home ever. Just stay in Starbucks and do all your coordinations.
That's what I was saying. If every manufacturer had an automatic push frequency to the transmitter, you could just be seated your entire job. Just do it all from your. Never have to resync a transmitter. Good question about the hardware interface with Clearcom or Riedel. The answer is right now, no, but there is hope. Donny's made some inroads at Clearcom. I think pushing FreeSpeak will probably be.
Yeah, there are conversations, but it's not right now. We're just focusing on the coord, the frequency app. We're gonna circle back to Nexus soon, but
Plan is for the same thing in Nexus to control the programming function of the devices as well as planning your whole intercom system.
yeah, and so the control of the hardware of like let's just name a manufacturer, Clearcom, and nothing's definitive because like but let's just name Clearcom because we've both us and them have shown interest in doing something together, collaboration. In order to control the hardware through our software, that would require Pro. To do offline, to build a file offline well, not offline, but in cloud, and then download it and then just, let's say, import it into an Arcadia or a FreeSpeak base station would not require Pro.
So if you are working on a show and wanted to do your coordinations on the plane, you would, before you left your shop, you would create a file, which would be the online version of the Pro. And then you could access it on the plane and connect it to your hardware and shoot it up when you get to the site.
That's correct. That it's the naming may be a little confusing, and maybe we should revisit that. But a cloud project just means that the data from that project will touch a cloud server. Local project means it will never leave your device,
Right.
even if you're connected to the internet. It will not talk to our servers in any way while you're in that project. And cloud allows you to seamlessly work even when your internet is intermittent. And then as soon as you reconnect to the internet, it will push all of the changes you made while you were offline to the cloud. So you have that as a backup, or if you're sharing real-time reports with A2s, or let's say you have a frequency request form out there, it'll download all your frequency requests that came in while you were offline. So it'll just sync between Pro and cloud will sync together.
So if I have a local file, not cloud, but a local file, and it's on a network that other people are on that have a Soundbase as well, can they access my local file on the
No.
same network? That's
No,
just
I guess-
isolated to one computer.
Think about it like it's a database running on your computer that runs Soundbase Pro. So think about it like it's literally a text file. It's not actually a text file in our case, but you can think about it like that. A local project is just a file on your hard drive.
So to do a collaboration, it always has to be the cloud version, even if it's Soundbase Pro.
Yep.
Correct. Because we want to be very explicit that when you have the local project ID or icon in the top, it's not going any, like even the sharing the scan data, the live scan data, you cannot do with a local project if you have internet. Because again, no data that's going through your device or through your computer is ever going to leave your computer. So if you want all of the kind of like the features that kind of differentiate Soundbase from other software types, then you would want to use cloud as your project type. But if you have data security concerns or a client that have those concerns, then you would use local.
Does the collaboration version or the online version work worldwide, or do you need to run it through a VPN? Does it run on regular old garden variety internet everywhere in the world?
It
So-
will work everywhere. There's certain things like if you're in China, we've had some users in doing some stops like tour stops in China where the Google autocomplete will not work because Google's just doesn't work in China. So where you would kind of enter your location, it would kind of do like that autocomplete of the address or location you're at.
But other than that, the autocomplete, it would work fine.
Yes, and then at that point you can just put in a zip code, which we aren't able to show because I'm online.
Right.
Doing
But
this-
I think the question was if you are working around the world, the collaboration feature works anywhere. It doesn't, no limitation. Even in China, if you had a concert in China with 2 or 3 coordinators, they could still coordinate using that, even though the Google part doesn't work.
We won't say 100%, but yeah, we've done from Vietnam to the US. That works no problem. Yeah, literally the only problem we've ever encountered was in China. We have stuff in Russia.
Got it.
And those issues were like the Google API, like Maps API that we're using for location. Matt, do you want to talk about equipment profiles? Some things that have changed?
Yeah, so not to be like a sales pitch for Soundbase Pro on this PST here. We just want to go back to Soundbase in general and what we've been up to since the last demo. Because we're always pushing out updates. So if you haven't seen the product or you haven't logged in a while, it might look completely different than the last time you did because we're always making changes. Most of the big changes were all around equipment profiles because those were some pain points. We've added a quick search feature, which can't believe it took us this long to add in because Donny and I love it and most users love it. We added a profile management system, which allows you to favorite a profile. I think that might have even been Pete's feature request. You're allowed to protect a profile, meaning if you are collaborating with a person that you don't necessarily want them to have your profile details. Maybe either you're doing something a little sketchy or you think it's your special sauce that you don't want that person to have. They'll be redacted from that user, even though they're still a collaborator with you. They can still do a recalculation. They just can't view any of those details about the profile. And then we've also allowed importing and exporting from, I think, Workbench and IAS and also Soundbase.
The reason I asked for this profile management system favorites is when you go up to select your manufacturer and all the things, you have like Shure has like 60 different things in there, and you try to limit it by using the IAS version and you have 6. Well, you've got to be somewhere in between that. So what I've done with your favorites here is every time I find the one I like, even though it may be one that may be part of the IAS list, I just put it in my favorites. So now I have all my favorites in one place.
Yeah, it's great. And then now with the quick search feature, it's almost favorites still exist, but it's almost like a moot point because it's so quick to find what you're looking for. And then finally, we keep adding profiles from manufacturers as we get them. Even manufacturers are reaching out to us, which is amazing, to say, hey, we want our stuff to work in your software because we see people using it, which is like so flattering. It's very great when that happens.
Now, as a local product, how do I make sure that kind of database is updated? Will it automatically update the local version on my computer every time it goes to check for the
You have to-
license, for instance?
It requires internet, yes. This is a sticky point between Donnie and I right now about how we're implementing that, because it's a lot of data that is being shipped around when you're talking about equipment profiles. Like I think it's over 12,000 profiles we have in our database now. So you can imagine when you go to sync that amount of data, you have to check the values of every single property on every single profile to see what you have in your pro locally installed version and what's on the cloud. So we may be changing that.
Eventually it'll be just a place where you could click, get the new data, and then you have to let it clog through all the.
That's one option. Another thing we were talking about was every new release of the product would have the new database. But that kind of goes against a little bit how Soundbase is in general, how we always want you to have the latest and greatest at your fingertips. So right now it syncs once you're connected to the internet, just like the license checks for.
But if you're doing your shows in the cloud version, your database is always updated.
Yep, that always pulls from the cloud database.
Yeah, if you're on tour, let's say for 4 months, and your laptop has just been living in a work box and it's never touched the internet, it's not going to have all the new profiles we add weekly. But as soon as you download the latest version or the update when it gets back to the shop, or you'll get all the new features and all the new equipment profiles.
Yeah.
So we should go through this, Matt?
Sorry, yes, I was answering a question about if we're going to be adding live scan data devices like receivers. Yes, like 84Q. And we've already done this. We experimented with Wizicom and Sennheiser devices. So you'll be able to through Pro connect to your network and then initiate a live scan or scan collection and view it in the plot, just similar to the Tiny SA. You're not going to have all those controls available, obviously, but you'll get the data as quickly as you can.
Yeah, so kind of like where the identify button is, like in the devices page, you'll just be able to click there's like a drop down menu, and you can just hit create scan, and it'll just put the scan in for you, automatically add it to your project. So again, it's kind of like you show up on site, you plug into your hardware, you add all your devices to your zone, you click the scan, pick a device, you pull the scan, and then you hit calculate after you set your exclusion threshold and make sure all the TV channel or data is correct. And then you just hit deploy and it's done. And that's across it's really the best part about it is not necessarily, well, that workflow is great, but it's being able to do it across multiple device types or manufacturers.
Sorry.
Because if you're on tour and you have a little bit kind of like an RF salad of Shure, Wizicom, and Sennheiser, you would have to repeat this process 3 times every single show. And it's a lot more to manage. So it's you're kind of doing it all in one hub here.
So
I
there's
I don't know. I like RF salad.
delicious. There's all your profile stuff over there that Donnie's showing. This is the thing we just added, which is, it's a type ahead that you're used to. It's kind of how like websites are doing search nowadays, how it kind of just pops it out in front of you. So you've got a nice big view. You can see it's kind of you don't have to type the exact word order. You can kind of like fuzzy searches for you. And as soon as you select it, it pops it right into your profile area. Yeah, especially helpful for those massive lists as you're talking about, like Electrosonics. And Wizicom was large, but Jeff Baynard helped us narrow that list down, so it's a bit better now.
And yeah, now we have he helped us too with we now have the support for both 25 kilohertz and 5 kilohertz steps. So depending on which receive pack you're using with the MTKs.
Yeah. Then you've got your profile manager up top there, where you can do all you can view your favorites or delete them from there. Custom.
If you wanted to enter a new profile for yourself, would it be best to copy one that's near it and then edit it?
Yes. So if we were to, let's say, take an 80, like an 84Q X55 band, this is where you would also favorite it, is this little heart here, and it'll add it to your favorites. You'll also notice in the search, when I start typing 84Q, my favorites show up at the top every time.
Favorites meaning the ones you used last time.
No, the ones that I've added to my favorites.
Oh, okay.
So even if I just type like AD, they'll still come up first.
Yes, in your situation, Pete, since you've favorited like Axient Digital from IAS, there's no really differentiator between those in the quick search. So by you having those as favorites, they would just be right up at the top of the list for you.
And then, yes, this is always to have use this as a template, as a starting point to make your own custom profile. You can also start from scratch too, if you wish. It's just a lot of fields that you have to fill, so we don't recommend it. And then over here, we have the profile importer. So you can pull from PWS's IIS, wireless workbench, or from coord. So Pete can be like, hey, I got this great Axient Digital profile and this great Sennheiser 6000 profile I want to share with you, Donny. It's the secret sauce. He can just send it to me in an email, and I can select it, and then I can drop it in and just add it in. You're muted, Matt.
We've already discussed the frequency monitoring, but maybe you want to show that at the zone or group level as well with a static file rather than this is on Soundbase Cloud every day. You can use it. So if you just have a static file in Soundbase Cloud, you can get those monitoring icon colors and all those threshold value editors just using your static scan file. We've also updated the band planning interface. And then one thing that the Broadway guys really wanted was this deployed marker for frequencies. So as you're sending out a real-time report to your A2s on site, you want to know if they've already synced their transmitters to that receiver on that number. So if you have to make changes, you know that you're kind of safe to make a change because they have or have not deployed it. And so this is editable from a real-time report. So that A2 doesn't have to necessarily have a Soundbase account or be added to the project as a collaborator. They can edit it right from the real-time report. And all of those things, all those parameters are customizable. So you can say whether you want them to be editable or not. Yeah, so
You can add contact information. So when you send out these links, and you can add messages for the A2s to see. And this is kind of where you can dictate what they can view and edit on those links. And then the deploy check mark that Matt was speaking of is right here. I actually just use this for myself, even if I'm not sharing a link to somebody. It's nice just to know what frequency did you actually put into the hardware, because you can calculate 12 frequencies, but only use 7 or 8 of them. So you can actually mark down which ones are actually in use.
That's just a record. Doesn't do anything. That's just
Purely
a mark.
documentation.
Right.
Yep.
We also added the new chat system, which the old one was kind of nerdy and not great. This one's like your typical chat system. You can open it in a new window. The other thing we added was this RF tools. It's just kind of quick links to all your basic RF calculations. Not that you necessarily need them at your fingertips every day, but just having all this information available and knowing that it's there can be helpful.
In the request section, I've used it on a couple of shows where I put a QR code at the check-in counter, and I was on one show and one ENG group came and they used it and they sent me a little note with their electrosonics that they were going to using, and I did a coordination for them. but I didn't have an easy way, one-click way to send them back the information. I had to text them with their phone number. Has that been added into the request so I can respond quickly?
Transactional communication has not yet. We want to add both email and text for both directions. We had one coordinator that we were working pretty closely with. He was using it at NBA All-Star, and he was getting so many requests, and he wasn't at his computer, and he wanted, he doesn't know whether things are coming in or not. So he wanted a notification that he had received a request. So we're going to add that in, as well as a way from the group level, because when you add a request to a coordination from the request form, it does it at the group level.
Right,
So
right.
just be at the group level, it'll send it to that contact. You can email or text.
That request and coordination would be nice to be able to do from the iPhone and iPad version as well.
True. Oh yeah, we made this a bit better than the
How
one.
much of what you're demoing right now is actually live? What is missing in the live version right now? The sound sync?
SoundSync, yep.
Just the direct control of the hardware is missing in the live version right now. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, Tiny
Everything
SA.
else is deployed and people have been using.
Even the Tiny SA, while it's still in beta, so you're only allowed one device and it only works on one zone. And you do have connection issues every once in a while that we get emails about. That's live too.
So it's only the hardware control which hasn't been pushed.
Yep.
Yeah, the sound synced, and that's the receivers and transmitters.
Yeah, all these features we've been demoing in the past 5 minutes or so are all live on the cloud version. It's a cool way to visualize your band plans and create them. We made this little graph, and you can drag and you can drag and drop the edges to change them if you want. Yeah. Just helps it visualize a little bit more because we understand that the plot at the bottom isn't the best, and we do have coming updates for that quickly that are gonna be very good for Donny and I. The performance improvements, UI improvements with the plot. We know there are some things where you get tooltips that are like they just get stuck somewhere. I think Pete, you emailed us about one that the plot just has some UI issues that we're fixing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all the new features we've added, and this other one that we're doing a demo, the elephant in the room, YMAS, WMAS, or broadband as it's colloquially called. So we're gonna demo a workflow that we think will work with these devices when they're released by whatever manufacturer comes out with them. It'll allow you to define input and output quantities, set parameters for those IOs. We demonstrated SoundSync for single narrowband devices, so you can see that we can interface with hardware in the future. Once the hardware is released, we're ready. All this is live on Soundbase Cloud, but it's behind a feature flag that only Donny and I have access to. But as we develop this further, we will ask for some beta testers once you get hardware in hand.
Yeah, obviously everybody's very excited about that FCC announcement, and our business is all about what's next, right? It's nobody ever seems to be satisfied, which is good. I think it's a thing, and obviously we see Donny. We're a lot of that same workflow, right? That we're gonna be able to experience for our traditional narrowband devices. I love that's one of the things that's very impressive about Soundbase and what you both are doing, which is it's always looking ahead. It's trying to anticipate. It's listening to the market. I'd like to throw something out there to the manufacturers, right? Keep this connectivity going with these folks. It's pretty rare when you find this third party that says, hey, I'm willing to take this on. And, you know, obviously we're watching, you know, as you're dropping that in, I think we're just getting a glimpse of, you know, what are some of the things that we anticipate seeing. And, you know, the challenge of everything's a cost now. That's a reality of the marketplace, right? I'm so appreciative of the feature sets you're building in here. You know, this is a forward-looking platform, right? And that is invaluable. And
How
all
many
of us,
channels did you put in the YMAS TV channel that you just did? How many different body packs are there?
I did
8 body packs in how many
eight,
years?
yeah, 8 transmitters and 16 receive
Amazing. All in
packs.
that one TV channel.
Yeah, I mean, the people may know there's potential for way more, but
Wow.
And that's the demo here, is that we understand that it needs to work with your narrowband devices. So now it's going to operate as an exclusion range for all of your narrowband to calculate around. Yeah, so we can calculate anything else. And it's, you know, you can still manage it just like you're managing any other frequency. You need a documentation place, you need a way to share this information, you need to collaborate. So this workflow will allow that. Obviously, we don't know what's to come with all these parameters or what needs to actually be documented. So based on some things we saw in forums, we kind of just built this out. But the core concept is like, you need an exclusion range and you want it to be in the frequencies. And so this is where we're at.
and the worst situation would be is for this hardware to start shipping and then, so, you know, 2 different vendors, one has the brand new system, other shows up with narrowband devices. So it's like, how do you yeah, you could just put in an exclusion range, right? And you could work around it, but there's no real way to document it or include it in your reports for production or for the A2s. So this is kind of like our approach. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more information as these devices start getting closer to their ship date. But also workflow, if people have any opinions or would like to see certain things, let us know.
I
But
think
we're
one,
also eager to see the actual hardware too when it gets done and do a show with Sennheiser and or Shure and whoever else is coming up with the YMAS equipment. But that'll be coming soon.
one can hope, huh? Like I said, we're never satisfied in our business, right? As soon as something's okay, that's great. Now what's the next thing? You know, I think I was typing a few words that just came up to mind as you were going through your demos. And I think the one that kept recurring was transparency. Both of you folks are transparent with everybody, right? It's like, here it is. This is what we're doing. This is what we're working on. It's kind of unusual, I'll be honest. You know, but that is what allows this third party to be so unique. And I think we're seeing an inflection point here in the market, which I think is awesome. Thank you for that. Thanks for, you know, listening to the marketplace. Like you've said over and over, we all need to keep that interaction going. That's actually what drives innovation. I will remind people, let's be kind. You know, when we're interacting with folks, you know, right now the world sometimes gets a little rough. Sometimes when we're just texting and typing, you know, we don't think about that, but man, ask the questions, challenge these guys. Every single time you've come on, you've always left us with going, hey, ask the next question, you know, challenge me for that next thing. What are we going to do? And things like that. That I can't say enough positive things. To your point about Redo, Clearcom, and anybody else that's out there, I would challenge those manufacturers to get with you. Everybody who's watching these videos now, later, reach out, encourage the rest of the marketplace to do that. I do understand these are investments that we all need to make. Yeah, subscription fees aren't fun. I'll be the first to admit that. But I'll tell you what, if every piece of software or hardware that I bought came with the level of support that you all put into this, boy, it'd be a lot easier. And I think this, personally speaking, for me, this is one of the best investments that I could possibly make on a yearly basis, is this software. And you know, I'd encourage everybody out there, it's just the reality of the marketplace we're in. When we sign up, especially as freelance folks, we got to show up with our toolboxes. If you're a carpenter, you're coming to work, and you may not like buying new batteries for your drill, but that's what you need, right? And we all walk in, and these are the tools that we need to be prepared. And for those sound shops out there and AV companies, reach out to these guys. They're willing to listen, to talk, to come up with unique licensing. You don't find that anywhere. So, you know, or everywhere, I should say. So, thanks for that. And, you know, Mac, Pete, any closing thoughts there?
Just that the $400 fee is, I mean, what do you pay for Vectorworks?
A lot more.
Yeah, a lot more.
Every year.
Yeah. You know, people who use Adobe Creative Cloud, it's, you know, it's like Vectorworks. It's a lot more than $400.
And it's your tools of the trade, right?
It's the tools. It's what you need to do your job. And it's really not that much money over the course of a year, you know, $1 a day. You know, it's really a good investment.
You know, and as Matt said, this isn't a sales pitch. What we are trying to say is, no matter whatever company comes on here, our job is to say, look, you know what, here are products that are making a difference in our marketplace. A, we need to know how to use them. B, we have to support quality products in our marketplace. It's just really that simple on so many levels. And thanks for what you do, guys.
Thank you for having us.
You were going to speak a little bit more on the subscription theory or plan, and my only question is it only yearly, or will there be a monthly? What if I just want to use it for a couple of months?
Well, well, we did just launch, but we're not opposed to offering something like that down the road. We're also, we just launched, so you know, we're getting a lot of feedback, just like
Right,
features.
right.
And you never know, maybe we'll come out with like a Soundbase Lite or something else that's.
We don't
less
want to do
expensive.
anything for lighting, nothing for lighting.
But yeah, it's just we just launched. There's a lot of really cool features that we're focusing on right now. And you know, just like all the features we've built and all of Soundbase, if people give us enough feedback and tell us, you know, maybe we'll reconsider or look at stuff. But for right now, it's just yearly at $400.
So the other versions, the other parts of your product, Dashboard and Harmony, will that have a free and subscription version as well?
So the $400 pays for all of those apps. So just like any
okay.
subscription product, like, you know, hold the developers accountable. It should be getting better over time. I shouldn't just sell you something and just walk away from it. So all these new features and all these new devices that we add and all everything will always be included in that. It will never be an additional surcharge.
And I would expect when you get around to doing the trucking and logistics page, it will directly control the AI-driven trucks.
Of course.
If we get enough feedback for that, maybe.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
the distinction there will be, again, hardware control is in Pro, but you've got dashboard and Harmony available in the cloud all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this has been a really great presentation. I loved it all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now that'll wrap us up. Thanks again to everybody for joining us. Keep an eye out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and our website. More PST webinars to come. And as always, when new things are out there, look to us and we'll do our best to get them there. So have a great one, everybody.